Are you a perfectionist, or do you know one? And do you like being a perfectionist? Because on the outside, it looks great. But let's talk about it in more detail. We've been doing a series about the flip slide. So not just the flip side of perfectionism, which might be, hey, I don't care, but it's more of a slide. And I would say the flip slide of that isn't, or the opposite of perfectionism isn't that a person doesn't care. We'll get into that more later. So I would definitely say I'm a recovering perfectionist, and then I translated that to Goodism, and I'll define those for you because they're just as terrible. So growing up, I got a lot of kudos for performing and doing great things, and so my brain thought it was a good idea to become a perfectionist. The challenge with being a perfectionist is that's how I would define my value, by doing and performing and getting kudos that way. So I did that for a lot of years, and it was pretty tiring. And then I got married many years ago to my first marriage, and that was a perfectionist to the even a higher level. And it's funny comparing perfectionists because one person's level of perfectionism and another person's level is different. Like they have different manuals on perfectionism. Well, I decided I needed to just be good and do the right thing, and that's just as bad, and that's called Goodism. So I was always working to do the right thing. The challenge with both perfectionism and Goodism, as I call them the evil cousins, is they are exhausting and they can be very harmful to ourselves and to others. And we'll get into those details. So perfectionism is basically you're being performance driven, and it affects our worth. And that's the challenge, is that it affects our worth. It's nothing wrong with performing at a high level, but it's what we do to ourselves when we don't attain it. And it's a lot of criticism to ourselves, a lot of shame, a lot of devaluation. It's a false belief that I need to perform to be perfect, because when I do that, then that means I'm worthy, I'm lovable, and I'm enough. And so that's really at the core, is we are trying to get our worthiness, lovable, and enoughness from our performance and from others and from external things, which isn't going to happen in the long run. But we can self-deceive ourselves for a long time, which we all do at times. So the problem is, first of all, it's a lie. Nothing is perfect. This is the world, the human world, and we're not going to get perfection. Also, everyone's view is different. We all have a perfectionist all has a different manual. Another thing is, with it being a lie, you can look at this several ways. Anytime we believe a lie, we give a hook to the enemy, if you believe that, and I do, and it gives him opportunity to make havoc of our lives. Another way you could put it, though, is by assuming a lie, something that's not true. It's a lower vibration, and we attract lower vibration. Those are both similar, and it does not help us. So number 2, it's depleting, like exhausting. The post is always moving. It's not like, oh yes, I attained it and I'm all good. It's like a monster. You kind of have to chronically feed it, and you never arrive. So it's horrible. So the post is always moving, and it adds a lot of stuck emotions in there, because when you have to be perfect, then you really can't deal with like feeling negative emotions, because it's saying something about us as people rather than just experiencing negative, emotions that are uncomfortable. It puts us into shame and guilt and spirals and this and that. So it's depleting and exhausting. So that's the second thing. First, it's a lie. Second, it's depleting. And thirdly, it makes relationships very difficult, because a person that's a perfectionist or a Goodist can't be wrong. It's very difficult for them to be wrong or say they're sorry without major shame and guilt coming up for them. And so it makes it very difficult to them. It also leaks out into relationships, because a person that's a perfectionist or a Goodist, if they are not attaining their standard, then they're not very kind to themselves inside their head. They're judgmental, they're critical, they're not nice. And the challenge and how that affects relationships is it bleeds out to others, because they're already doing it to themselves. And if it's not doing that, then it's just making them arrogant, because if you really think we are perfect or good, then we become very arrogant, because the truth is none of us are perfect. And honestly, none of us are perfectly good either. So that can cause a lot of arrogance, and arrogance is killer in relationships. So that's why it does not help relationships. So it's a lie, it's depleting, and it makes relationships difficult. So where do we come up with the idea that we need to become a perfectionist or a goodist? Well, like most of the stuff we talk about, it can happen very subconsciously. And it's just a part of our brains that decided it was a good idea. And it was usually to protect us, to care for us, and to prioritize us however it wanted to do that. So it's just an adaptation that our brain would automatically do. Why would it do that during childhood? Well, it could do it for 3 different reasons. For one, we get attention when we perform, and this is super common. And I don't think our parents are wanting us to be like, yeah, I want you to become a perfectionist. Some maybe are, but in general, they're just automatically doing what the culture says, which is applaud them when they perform. And that just makes our brain think, oh gosh, applauding when I perform, therefore they go together, and therefore that's where I get my worth because it feels good. And so it's very automatic to come up with this perfectionism or Goodism. And it doesn't mean we had bad parents, but our brains just thought it was a good idea when we were young and decided this was a good standard for us. The second reason that perfectionism or Goodism can come into our life is from not getting attention when we're not performing. So if all of a sudden we notice, hey, I get some attention when I'm performing, but all of a sudden I'm not getting attention when I'm not performing, or I see my sibling or somebody else getting attention because they're performing and getting the good grades or getting the awards, then obviously my brain wants to prioritize attention for me, because we all want that as kids. And so, it decides it's a good idea to become a perfectionist or a goodist. The third way is we could get harmful attention when we don't measure up. And that's super sad too. And that's like, oh my goodness, did you get a B? And in the shame and the kind of the cruelty that can come sometimes. I know some parents don't mean to do it, some do. But that can really stick in our brains. And it doesn't even have to be a huge amount of moments, but a few moments like that where we don't measure up and we are devalued because of it, that gets into our brain. And it's like, that doesn't feel good. I do not want that. I think that's also very common in abusive situations, because they're not measuring up and they're getting punished for that. And then that can easily turn into either perfectionism or Goodism, or just like giving up, because it's just such a toxic structure. And that happens with verbally or physically abused kids. And so that is super common with that. Are you feeling stuck in with love, wealth, or peace? Well, you're not alone. Often it's a subconscious belief holding you back. That's why I combined life coaching and hypnotherapy together, so you can break through what's been keeping you stuck. Life coaching helps you shift your mindset, while hypnotherapy works deep within to reprogram limiting beliefs and memories. It's fast, it's effective, typically 1 session of each, and I have a few openings left. Are you ready for a change? Visit livebrighter.info and book your free consultation and see if this approach is right for you. See you then. So I talk about how our brain has a bunch of squirrels in it, and we can feed the squirrel, get it fatter, or we can balance all the squirrels so we've got some healthy little squirrels. Well, the perfectionism squirrel, it is a hog. It wants all of the food, and it is a bully. And so if you kind of think of our brains and we are feeding that perfectionist squirrel and it's getting fatter and fatter, it's just mean to all the other squirrels and being like, no, this is what's running the show. I'm in charge. All you other squirrels get degraded, punished, and it makes for a really cruel mind situation in our heads, and it's got to stop. Like, it is not good for us, it's unhealthy, and it's got to stop. So on the other side of perfectionism, what is it? Is it I don't care? I don't think so. I think the flip side of perfectionism is actually self-love and compassion, because perfectionism and Goodism is the opposite of self-love and compassion. And so because we're looking for love from external and we're looking for validation from external, and it will never arrive completely. It is an ongoing cycle, and it will exhaust, hurt you, and hurt relationships. So, not helpful. So the other side is really self-love and compassion. And what that means is we can have high standards for ourselves, but we get our self-love and compassion from, first of all, ourselves. And as I teach with the Unravel Notebook available on Amazon and multiple times in here, how do we get the I'm worthy, I'm lovable, and I'm enough? I believe that starts first from God or Source, because He doesn't make junk. He thinks we're all amazing, lovable, more than enough. We're designed that way. We're designed special, and we're designed with talents, and we're not perfect. Like all of us are our own little shit show. And that's part of being a human, and it's okay. But knowing that God and Source actually loves us, not just theoretically, but has feelings and delights in us, and just sees us as unique, special, and His favorite. You know, that's my favorite Doug there, or that's my favorite Michael, or that's my favorite Julia. And really, God sees us that way. And so really understanding that and embracing that is huge. That way, you know, you're worthy already, you're lovable, and you're enough. So getting that from God. And then secondly, though, some people I know and I don't know if they're just cognitively getting that from God, but they seem to lack giving it to themselves. And I think that that is the first person we need to give it to. We need to give that love, care, and compassion to ourselves. And until we do, we will not really have as much love to give to others, because we cannot, I think it doesn't help us going into relationships asking them to fix this, because that's not going to work. This is something we need to fix ourselves. Like if we're always entering relationships wanting to be worthy and lovable enough and expecting them to make us feel that way, it's always kind of sucking the energy. Versus if we already know from God and Source that we are lovable enough and worthy, and then we know from ourselves, we give ourselves care and compassion. We've chosen to do that. We prioritize ourselves. We speak kindly to ourselves like a friend. And this is not automatic. This is, I think, automatically we're kind of mean to ourselves. So this has to be a practice of compassion and care. And it is just a regular practice. And honestly, I think when I transitioned into this, it was a decision first. And then it was working on the subconscious and working through all that, and then just adding more positive reinforcements in that direction and believing it. Because honestly, it's true. God says it. And so I think I should just believe it. So that's what I've really been trying to live by. And that gives me a lot more love and energy to give to others and others' relationship. That way I'm not dependent on them for those things, but I can actually, you know, get it from myself. And I can also perform at a high level. But when I screw up, that doesn't mean like I'm a horrible person. It means that that wasn't my best work. So these are kind of some of the things that, you know, I work to say to myself, because it's a whole training process. Our minds, you know, our brains have their automatic way of thinking, and they're automatically negative, they're automatically judgmental, and that's only because it's trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us small and protect us. That's its job. So, you know, we've talked about how it acts like a lifeguard and, you know, wants to just keep us safe in a baby pool with, you know, no water in it. And that's just how our brain is designed. But it's our job, our mind's job, to train our brain. And that's where, you know, it starts with choices and working on the subconscious and really working towards that. But it's definitely a worthy endeavor for like the things I mentioned, as far as like it's not depleting, it's actually filling. It makes relationships better. There's a ton more peace. And that, I think that's huge, because I would say with perfectionists and Goodism, the biggest thing lacking internally is peace. So these are some of the things I try to say to myself. And by the way, I'm not perfect at this because I'm human. So the awareness is the start, and the habits 1% at a time is where we can change things. And the choice is where it really starts too. So for example, you know, I could say that wasn't my best work, and I love myself. I made a mistake and I'm sorry. And that doesn't mean that I'm not lovable. I can learn from this and I can improve. and I'm worthy no matter what. I've made choices in the past that I would not make now, and I accept my past and I don't use it against me. I've chosen to be a friend to myself, and that has to be a conscious decision where we download that friend in our mind and we actually feed that squirrel rather than the perfectionism squirrel. So that is the process. And sometimes it helps us to understand what part of us or what happened that we decided, our brain that decided, or our mind decided, I should be clear on that distinction, that it was a good idea to be a perfectionist or a goodist. And so I want to do a little hypnotherapy session, a little mini session. And for any of you, like, what is hypnotherapy? Let me just explain it a little bit. So as a life coach, I do life coaching, which works with the cognitive side, and I always partner that with hypnotherapy, which works with the subconscious, because we can do a lot of decisions consciously, and our subconscious is running the show. So doing work there is really important, and that's why I put those together. And so let's just do a little hypnotherapy session. This is not mind control. You should not do this when you're driving. It's basically just getting to a relaxed state where you can see inside yourself a little bit more in order to understand your subconscious and how your mind decided it was a good idea to become a perfectionist. So it gets us into like a theta state or alpha or theta state, and basically just relaxes us, calms us, allows us to do a little internal work, and is super helpful. So I hope I've given you enough information to be comfortable if you had any questions, and let's get started. So this is just going to be a mini section, and we're not going to do like a deep hypnotherapy or a deep relaxed state. People that are hypnotized never feel hypnotized. They're just in a relaxed state, and they can get out of it at any time. They cannot do things against their will. And so if you see anyone like at a fair or somewhere where they're acting really wild, it's because they're very hypnotizable and they don't have a lot of boundaries as far as what they're willing to do. That is not most of us. So not a problem. Okay, so just get into a calm place. This is just a way to pause and to do a little internal work in our subconscious. And then just take a deep breath in and then breathe out slowly. Just relax your body and your mind. And take a deep breath in and breathe out slowly. And you'll have to watch this on YouTube if I don't describe this well enough. But what helps to go into a hypnotized state is if you keep your eyeballs, your face forward, but if you use your eyeballs and you look up through your eyebrows, then that actually helps you go into a hypnotized, more of a hypnotized, relaxed state. And so if you do that and breathe in and breathe out, and you'll notice if you're watching this on YouTube that I'm blinking, and that's actually me getting into more of that state. So breathe in and breathe out. And then go ahead and relax your eyeballs and close your eyes. And taking a deep belly breath in and breathing out. And I want you to go down 5 stairs. So just chip your chin down like you're looking down a flight of stairs, 5 stairs. And you're going to just walk down slowly. And I want you to see your feet, feel your feet going down each and every step. So I want you to start on step 5, and you can see your feet. You have a specific set of stairs that you're going down, and you step down to step 4, and you can feel your feet stepping down the step. And you step down to step 3, and every muscle, every nerve turns loose, lets loose, and you go deeper. And you step down to step 2, relaxing, going deeper into an internal state, and step 1, as you're getting more relaxed and more able to see your internal state. And I want you to imagine that you can turn your eyes inward and find out the part of you that came up with the idea of perfectionism or Goodism. And it's the easiest thing to do. And I want you to ask that part how old you were when that part decided it was a good idea to come into your life. How old were you when that part came into your life? and see what comes up for you. And then ask that part, what was the little person of you doing, seeing, feeling, and experiencing that your mind thought it was a good idea for you to come up with this? And then just look at what's going on around you. Like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? And how did this scene feel to the younger version of you? How did it feel inside your body when this circumstance was going on? And what did this cause you to believe about yourself and the world? And what did the younger version of you need at that time that you weren't getting? And I want you to take your adult you and just say to that younger version, just say, this is you and just say your age now, and I'm here to take care of you. And I want you to give that younger version what it needed, whether it needed a hug or understanding, compassion, or just listening to what it has to say. So go ahead and do that. And I want you to remind that younger version that he or she is worthy, lovable, and enough. And I want you to just feel this love in your heart and see how you can take care of that younger version of you. And then just let that scene drift back into your subconscious. And now I want you to just take a deep breath in and breathe out. And just know that you're worthy, lovable, and enough, that you do not need to get that from external sources. I want you to just envision a bright light above your head of God or Source. And it's a loving light, and it's adoring light. And I just want you to envision this light going through the top of your head into your heart. And I want you to actually feel the love, like feel it inside your body. The eyes, and it's kind of like a parent would look at a child just with delight and love. Just envision that. And just fill your heart with that love. And you can even put your hand on your heart and just say, I've got myself, and God's got me, and I'm worthy, lovable, and enough. And take a deep breath in. And if your eyes are closed, you can just start opening them and wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and come back into the room. And that's a very short mini form of hypnotherapy, but hopefully you were able to see a scene and get some understanding of why your mind thought it was a good idea for you to come up with perfectionism or Goodism, and know that you can start doing the work to change that, and that it'll help you have more peace and create better relationships and add more value to this world. I believe in you. Make it a great day. Stay tuned for our next episode.